So we're going to talk about being kind today. But I'm second to youngest of 8 kids. And so that makes me what? Spoiled. Spoiled by everybody, me and Joe. My mom and dad gave us everything we wanted. All the older siblings could do our homework for us. We were super spoiled, so I didn't really have to share too much being almost the youngest. And because of that, people would always come to me and they, tell me, Isaac, you need to be more selfless. You need to think of other people more and stop being selfish. And I began thinking, why? Why should I give up all my stuff and my happiness for somebody else? Isn't my happiness just as important? It didn't make sense to me. But then they're like, don't you want to be a good person, Isaac? I'm like, I'd rather have a lot of stuff. But then like, no, you're missing the whole point, Isaac. And I couldn't get an idea or a grasp on this idea of why I should think of other people and why I should give my stuff away and why I should give my time and sacrifice things for other people. And so I never liked this idea of people saying you're a bad person if you don't think of other people. I much more like to look at it like this. Would I rather be broke, alone, and stressed, or would I rather be rich, have friends, and relax? Which one would you want? This way. It's a no-brainer, right? We all want to be happy, have friends, be rich, be relaxed. And so I began thinking, how can I get this? Because that's my goal. My goal is to be happy, and my goal is to get all this stuff. And so, I began looking how to be happy. And so I traced it, what do I need in my life to be happy? So I need money, of course. I need rides places because I can't drive myself. And I need a lot of stuff. And so then I began looking at this and thinking, I can't do any of this on my own because I can't work. I'm only 15. I don't have a license, and I can't buy stuff. And I found out, there's people attached to all of these things. And now, being pretty logical at the time, I started thinking, if my father, for whatever reason, were to pass away, what would happen to my money supply? What would go away? I'm like, oh, that's not good. And so I started thinking, my mom, she loves me, and she'll do anything for me, even if she's angry at me. But if she's too busy, or if she's off fixing her own problems, she doesn't have time to give me rides. So that's a problem, because I want a lot of rides. And if my siblings, they're grounded or they get their stuff taken away, then they won't, be willing to let me borrow it. So I began thinking, with my dad, it's in my best interest to keep him alive how long? As long as physically possible, right? So I'm like, okay, so my dad gets home every day and he yells at me because I didn't do the dishes and I'm supposed to do the dishes, and he looks like he's going to have a heart attack. Like, if he has a heart attack, he might die, and then there goes my money. So I'm like, can't do that. So again, thinking, okay, I better start doing the dishes. Then, I started thinking, if I spend too much money, he might have to work too much. And if he works too much, then he might die of a heart attack. So I'm like, okay, can't spend too much, just enough so he keeps working. Then I began thinking about my mother. How can I take care of my mother better? So I'm like, if I get good grades, she doesn't have to worry about me. I'm obedient. I'll do some chores in the house, talk to her more. Because if she's happy and she has a lot of time to relax, whenever I ask for a ride, guess what I get? I get a ride. And the same thing with my brother. I began looking at this logically, and I began to realize the only way to think of myself is to think of who? Other people. If I were only to think of myself, and I didn't think of my mom, my dad, or my brothers, I'd wind up with very little money, no rides, and no one to share their stuff with me. And so I began thinking, I get it now. I need to think of others because that's really the only way I can what? Think of myself. I began learning this isn't a moral decision. This isn't like, do you want to be a good person in life or a bad person? This is a question of intelligence. Do you want more stuff in life or less stuff in life? Do you want to be happier or more stressed? And I learned intelligent people, they think of other people. Because that's the best way for you to be happy, and it also allows other people to be happy. But now when I tell people this, and I thought to myself, there's a question, though, about this. I see a lot of greedy people in life. See a lot of these CEOs of companies, and they look like they're stealing from people, making billions. They seem pretty happy. I'm like, if this is true, these people are stealing from people, and they seem to be doing well. So I looked up a case of one of the best thieves I know, Frank Abagale. If you've seen Catch Me If You Can or the TV series White Collar, it's made after this guy. He's like a master thief. He cons people into giving them his money. So he does fake checks, he impersonates people. Like he impersonated being a doctor for 6 months at a hospital. He was like their lead physician. He impersonated being airline pilots, flying all over the world. He did tons of crazy stuff. One of the best things he did that I liked was he found out how airlines companies work. So he went to the airport and he found out all these companies, at the end of the day, they took all their money, put it into a bag, and they dropped it off in a drop box that was locked. The bank would come by at the end of the day and pick up all the money and take it safely to the bank. So once he found out how everyone works and how people operate, he puts a sign on the box, out of service, place deposits with security guard on duty. And what was he doing? He was dressed up as a security guard. They gave him all his money, and he just walked away. But because he understood how people worked, he was able to steal from a lot of people. And if you look at him, the only reason he was good at stealing, the only reason he was successful, is because he understood people. He understood what they wanted to hear. He understood what they liked. He understood, how they did their jobs. And he was able to impersonate, steal, and do all these things. Eventually, though, he gets caught. Gets caught in France. He gets put into a jail about like the size of a little box. No plumbing, no lighting, no electricity. He goes in about 190, comes out about 110, almost dead. And he's like naked the whole time in there too. They give him a little rag as a blanket. He feels so bad while he's in the jail because he really loved his parents. And he wanted to get out and tell his dad how sorry he was. But while he was in jail, his dad slips going down to the subway, dies unexpectedly. Never gets to see his dad again. Winds up with no money and ends up, getting out of jail, but he has nothing. And you look at what caused him pain. And it's because he was stealing from other people. So although he made a good thief because he could think of other people, because he was stealing from others and thinking of himself, he eventually had a lot of pain because of it. People would mail him letters telling him how much of a genius he was, because he did this all at the age of like 16, 17. And in interviews now, he would tell people, people say I was a genius, but I want to write back to them and tell them, if I was a genius, I wouldn't have had to steal to survive. It was a very unhappy life. Nobody knew who I was. I was always on the run. Every Christmas, birthday, everything. I was always alone. And this is a lesson of life. Anytime you see someone successful, it's because they can think of others to a degree. But as much as they think of themselves, it will always cause them pain. Where is this guy now? Does anyone know? He's still alive, and he's a millionaire. He worked for the FBI for a bit, helping them catch criminals, and then he started his own fraud protection. He took his ability to think of others, and instead of stealing from them, he used it to protect them. And now he has his own consultancy business, millionaire. You look at anyone who is successful. You look at Steve Jobs. The only reason Steve Jobs is successful is because he knew what all of us wanted when we didn't even know what we wanted. And he gave us the iPhone, the iPod. Taylor Swift, at the time she became famous, she knew the heart and mind of every teenage girl. She put it into a song, and everybody just loved it. And that's what artists do. You look at these people. Do these people spend a lot of time trying to change other people and getting them to like what they like? No. They find out what people like, and they find out how they can meet those people's needs. So how they can help them and how they can be successful at the same time. All successful people are successful because they think of others. And I went through life and I practiced this first in the home. I practiced thinking of my family, my mom and dad, my siblings. But eventually, I began to widen my scope because this isn't like a family thing, but this is a life thing. I began, even though I'm an introvert, I began reaching out to people, and I began meeting people and thinking to myself, how can I help this person have a good life? Because I always found, as I looked to be kind and to help others, it only helped me in the end. And some of these people I never thought would have been able to help me. And some haven't helped me directly. But as I widened my network, now I always have somebody to help me with anything I need. And life has become so much easier. I always think of the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are probably I think they're the richest people in the world. And when they hire people for their company, they will take these people to the cafeteria. And they'll watch how these people that they're interviewing interact with the cafeteria and the employees. The reason being, they want to hire kind people. They look for people who will acknowledge who gives them their lunch, even the lunch people, says thank you, is happy towards them, happy to the people they meet, because they've realized as well, if somebody, as intelligent as they may seem, if they can't think of others, they're really not that intelligent.